Well, this is the bird trackers lesson, and to start off, you can start outside and talk to the students about what kinds of roles the birds play in their ecosystems, and you can visit one of the feeders, like this one here, over at Walker, to see if any of the students can already identify some of the birds that they might see today. All right, for the trackers lesson, you will teach the students to use observation and research skills to identify birds here at SWES. They will then take their data and submit it online to a worldwide database that tracks bird populations. They will learn to search for data using that website or bird ID books to track bird migration patterns. And for older students, they will analyze environmental threats that birds may face. By the end of the lesson, every student should be able to name at least 3 different characteristics used for identifying birds. They should be able to give examples of how birds are important to different ecosystems. They should be able to take a role as a citizen scientist monitoring bird populations. They should be able to use their observation skills to identify and record bird species in stationary counts. They also should be able to demonstrate how to use field guides or the eBird website to determine where bird species may be found at different times of the year. And again, for the older students, they should also be able to evaluate how a particular bird species may be affected by certain environmental threats. Alright, for the first activity is the citizen science. You will just have a discussion with the students about where all the information that in books and online that they might find comes from, and they will discover that not all of it comes just from scientists doing research. It also comes from people like us that are in the population doing counts and research on their own and submitting. For the 6 characteristics lesson, you can there's all the bird silhouettes that are just like this. You can put them in 3 piles around the room, labeled with the 3 different signs, and then have the students get up, and each person can pick out their own bird, or if there's too many students, you can pair them up. But once they sit back down, you can have them, you're then going to use all the silhouettes to talk about the 6 different characteristics of identifying the birds. For the stationary bird count activity, you can bring the students down to Walker, the feeder here, or you can do it just outside of Sunset Classroom, or the lodge up there. But you'll divide the students into 4 groups, because there are 4 sheets with the birds on there that they might find here at SWES while they're doing their count. And while they're doing their count, they're just going to make a tally of which birds they see, making sure not to double count or count any birds twice. Alright, so once you compile all the data, you're going to bring it back inside and you'll enter it into the eBird website. So you'll first go to the eBird website, sign in as SWES, and then you'll click observe or submit observations right here to enter all the information to the data. Once you have clicked submit observations, it'll bring you to this screen, and you'll select from your locations whether you did your count at Sunset Lodge or Walker Lodge. After you enter the location and click the next continue button, it'll bring you to this screen for the date and effort. So you'll put the observation date in here, and then observation type, and we did stationary observation. So the next box you'll come to, or next screen you'll come to, is this one, and you'll just put the number of individuals seen next to the species. So for the next activity, for Where's Your Bird, each group of students will get one of the field guides and an assigned bird, and they'll go through the field guide, find their bird and the range that's listed in the book. And then you can also bring up their bird on the eBird website by going to Explore Data and then clicking into the range and point maps, and that'll bring up where the bird's located at different times of the year. Alright, for the last activity, to do with the older students if there's time, is the environmental threat cards. You'll give each group one of these threat cards, and it's a situation of an environmental threat, and they will use the bird that they were assigned to find the range and migration patterns for, and they should be able to tell whether or not the bird was affected by that threat and how it was affected. By the end of the lesson, each student should be able to name at least 3 characteristics for identifying birds, They should be able to give examples of how birds are important to different ecosystems. They should be able to take on a role as a citizen scientist in monitoring bird populations. They should be able to use their observation skills and identification skills to record bird species in stationary counts. They should be able to demonstrate how to use field guides to determine where a bird species' home range is and where its migration patterns might be. And for the older students, they should be able to evaluate how a particular environmental threat may affect different species of birds.